interview room. Muzzy checking in, the time's here. How you all doing? All right, let's begin. Let's have a chat about the fact that I want to interview the best fighters in the world, and that's that. Had a lot of guests from everywhere, all across the globe. Fighters tell me.
G'day everyone, Muddy here from Muay Thai Interviews again. My next guest, he hails from Birmingham, England, but now resides in Auckland, New Zealand, where he trains out of the renowned training facility at City Kickboxing, Auckland. He originally studied to be a journalist, but found his true calling in the art of fighting. He's fought in England, China, Australia, New Zealand. He's also done some training in the USA. And he's currently training for his world title fight on Chaos 2 against Charlie Bubb in Canberra on the 1st of June. I'm joined by Mark Timms. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How's the training coming along?
Yeah, all good. I'm loving the training here in Auckland.
Yep. And so I read that once you finished your degree in journalism, you pretty much were stuck in a job that you really disliked. Tell me how you went from being a journo to a world-class fighter.
Well, I was studying journalism, and I was at university, and I was like fighting while I was at uni. And then I finished uni, and then in order for me to continue training and like living in the city that I was living in, I had to just get the first job that I could get and the first living situation I could get, which is basically a really just a crap masonette flat like that to share with like three other people. And then I just had to get the first job I could get, which was copywriting for like a bathroom supplier. So I just worked for them. So I used my writing skills to describe toilets basically all day, and just to support my like passion for Muay Thai basically.
Yeah. So that was
once I was doing that and I was managing to do a bit more Muay Thai or whatever, I like won like the equivalent of what would be like a state title, and I was kind of climbing the rankings a little bit in England. But then I just like sort of ran out of opponents, or like the people in my division just weren't fighting for like, I think it just went a bit stale for like a year.
Yep.
And then I was like, yeah, I'm just not gonna like hang out. I've got to make my own opportunities. You know what I mean? So that's when I just started saving up to sort of leave England and just do anything. I was just like planning on seeking any opportunities I could, basically.
Yeah.
I thought, I'll go to America, and then I'll go to Australia and use Australia as kind of a base, because I knew I could work there and do some other stuff. So I just ended up training loads and meeting lots of like good high-level fighters and stuff, and learning about the sport a little bit more, and finding out how little I knew about the sport as well along the way.
Yeah, it's always a learning curve. You never ever stop learning in this, and if you think you know everything, well then you're probably in the wrong area, and you definitely don't. So once you decided to leave England and pursue your dream, can you tell us about when you went to USA and you did some training with Joe Schilling, and what was that like, and what did you learn from him?
Yeah, I went to the Yard Muay Thai in LA. I just really like LA anyway as a city, so I thought I'll go there, and my brother that lives there anyway, so I thought I'll just be with him so I could have some support there at the same time in my first venture away from home. And I went with my friend Nathan, and we went to the Yard, and like they have like amazing trainers there, like Mark Kimura, Yoshi, and Lee Garcia at the time were all the trainers there. And I just started like learning that I wasn't very good at boxing basically straight away.
Yeah. And
I'd go like sparring and stuff. Like Joe was training for Melvin Manhoff at the time, so we'd go and spar at another gym. What was it called? It was in Rancho Cocobunga. It was Lorenz Larkin's gym. Millennia, his name is, Millennia. So we would go and spar there, and Mark would go with us, and Joe would go with us, and like we'd just like learn about all the flaws in our game basically, and then we'd go back to the gym, and then we were lucky enough to have Mark and Joe and Yoshi and those guys like fill in the gaps, you know what I mean, where we were missing some stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So they have like a really good like system there where you can kind of turn up any time and like get some good like one-to-one time with the trainers there, but they have like a really good Muay Thai specialist in Yoshi. They have a really good boxing guy in Mike Kimura, and like it just really works, like the way that they do things, and it really works for kickboxing. So the style that they teach was like predominantly like a really high level kickboxing style that Joe obviously has, and yeah, like in terms of like learning a lot of stuff, learning from Joe was just kind of, at the time I was a Muay Thai fighter, but obviously by the time when I met Joe, he'd like not long won the tournament, won the 8-man, or maybe he just won one and got to the final in the other one.
Yep.
And earned some decent money and stuff. And he kind of like mentored me and my friend, and he was just kind of like, look, Muay Thai is not where the money's at. You want to do this. And before, I just didn't even like think that was going to be a thing. I thought I wasn't good enough to do that, and then got a bit of confidence and got a bit of like a bit more like obviously like upskilled a little bit while I was there. And then I sort of thought, yeah, I'm going to try and just do the kickboxing thing when I get to Australia. That's my plan. He just kind of inspired that journey and made sort of like the idea of maybe getting on Glory one day or a decent level kickboxing promotion a bit more doable. So yeah, I kind of learned that from Joe, along with some technical things on the way and stuff. But I definitely learned that, yeah, like pursue something that's like going to earn you some money and keep you in the sport, not just like something that's like Muay Thai where it kind of stays as a hobby forever.
Yeah, and when you came to Australia, you trained at the Bulldog Manly gym. You had a few fights there. What did you think about Australia and your time while you were in Oz?
Yeah, it was really good. It gave me a chance to like practice a lot of the stuff that I was working on in America, which is good because obviously I was starting to fight then.
Yeah.
So it was good to like start putting those things to the test. Because I couldn't fight in America. It was difficult to fight there for all our medicals and stuff. So yeah, we ended up fighting there. I really liked the training with Nick Stone. But yeah, like I was fighting at like a heavier weight. The opportunities weren't really there for me at kind of 80 kilos, which was my preferred weight.
Yeah.
Or like low 80s or 79, whatever. And so I was just kind of taking fights at a heavier weight and doing okay, but like not doing the best. Eventually I moved to Melbourne after I went and did my farm work, because that's what you have to do if you're on a working holiday visa. If you want an extra year, you go and work on a farm.
That's right, you do.
So I went and did that for a bit, and then I came back and I went to Melbourne and trained at Super Fight Gym with Don Miller, which is a predominantly Muay Thai gym.
Yeah.
But they had like a really good boxing coach there in the daytime, and I'd spend some time with those. And I ended up, when I was in Melbourne, I returned to my preferred weight and then fought Arita Gilbert in Melbourne. And just got a good win against him. And that was basically, after like doing the Australia thing, that's kind of when it was time to go to China, because I sort of got inspired by Israel, and after having fought him, and then Blood Diamond as well, I sort of followed their stories a little bit, and I was like, how did they get so good and experienced and stuff? And then I was like, they went to China, so I eventually went there after that.
So would it be fair to say, after your time in the USA with Joe, where you practiced and you did a lot of kickboxing, when you came to Australia, was it more predominantly Muay Thai, like training at Super Fight Gym and Bulldog Gym? They're like, renowned Muay Thai gyms, and then would that be true, or no? You still did a lot of kickboxing while you're in Australia.
I fought Muay Thai like once, and then the rest of the time I fought kickboxing.
Okay.
While I was in Australia.
Yep.
I kind of like just said like I just want to fight kickboxing to Nick and Don at the time. And they just sorted it out basically. Yeah. But I'd never said that before. I'd never said I'd never pigeonholed myself. I was always a Muay Thai fighter before that. And then I was like, I just want to switch over, because I know that if I eventually get enough experience in this, then maybe something could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And it certainly did, opened up doors for you. And also, during your time in Australia, you fought, as you just mentioned, Israel Adesanya in the semi-finals of the King in the Ring 8-man tournament. At that time, you won your first fight, but you had to go a fourth round in your first fight. And you'd also, at that time, you'd only had 14 fights compared to Israel's 46. And he was also the reigning and defending champ at 84 kilogram cruiserweight king of the ring. You could see at the start of the fight, he tried to intimidate you and put his forehead on yours and all that sort of stuff, but you absolutely weren't having a bar of it, and you showed that you weren't intimidated by him at all. Even though you didn't get the win, what positives did you take away from that tournament?
Quite a lot. It was like a big learning experience. I think even just standing across the ring from Israel, I felt like a totally different sort of energy. I could feel his energy. I could almost feel his experience. And even though he was calling me a cunt at the time, and I started saying the same thing back to him, I was there was definitely I could definitely feel this experience difference when I was fighting him and stuff. Yeah. And I was I need to get some of this experience that he's got, because he's really relaxed, and he's sort of owning the ring and stuff. Yeah. And he just took me out of my game kind of thing. I didn't know if I was I didn't know who I was anymore. Second round or whatever. Yeah. But I was just trying my best. Gameness is everything. So I'm always going to be game. So it didn't matter that we were going nose to nose and stuff like that, because I'm still a fighter. I was just a very inexperienced fighter at the time. Yeah. But I learned loads from that experience. Mainly just I was I want to make other people feel my energy just as Izzy made me feel his energy at the time.
Yeah, definitely. That's good analysis. And given that you fight at your fighting weight's around 77 to 80 kilos, did you find that fighting in the cruiserweight at 84 kilos was too heavy? Yeah, definitely. I fought at cruiserweight in the past, in the very early stages of my career, whilst I was at uni, just finding my weight and just kind of fighting any weight, really. Obviously, when you're a relative novice, you don't really know about weight cutting and stuff like that, so I was just fighting it that way anyway. And then later on, as my career actually became serious and stuff, I was I'm an 80 kilo fighter. Yeah. But I sort of I can fight at that weight at a decent level, but I just can't fight at that weight at world level. You know what I mean? I found that out. Did you find fighting at a heavier weight? Does that help you? Obviously, because you don't have to cut as much weight, but then you're also carrying the extra weight. Do you find that hinders, or it's better for your cardio, in terms of taxing on your body and having the extra gas in the tank? Do you find that helps you, or that's more of it doesn't help you, it's too heavy?
I think I definitely my conditioning and everything is always good at that weight, but I actually like the fact that you have to be disciplined in your what you're eating and stuff, and I like the sort of living in a bit of dieting and stuff. I think it's important to stay disciplined in that kind of a way. Yep. It's difficult to go with that. I was eating whatever, obviously not whatever. I was eating healthily, but there was nothing stopping me from having a banana bread whenever I wanted it or whatever. Yeah. And again, that in terms of having a lot of fighter's lifestyle, I think it works a bit better if you have more discipline, so you know that you've got to make a weight in a safe way and then compete. So I think fighting at heavier weight, the conditioning is all good, and it's nice to not have to diet, but at the same time, I think it's nice, it's good to have the discipline. Yeah, definitely. And then, as you touched on, which I'm keen to have a chat about, after your time in Australia and fighting in New Zealand on King of the Ring, you went to live and fight in China for 2 years. And in the first year, you amassed 10 fights. And then you had, obviously, a fair few more after that. That in itself, fighting in China, as you would agree, is some invaluable experience you gained. Can you talk a bit about that, and what did you gain from your time in China? Yeah, going to China, I was inspired by Israel's story, him going to China and Blood Diamond. I knew that these other New Zealanders had been there, and like they'd gained all this experience there, and then gone back. They'd gone back to their home country, and then just smashed people up.
Yeah.
Like Blood Diamond won the 72 kilo King in the Ring, and obviously Izzy had won it. And I thought, like, God, I need some experience like that. Like, I feel like I want to go and get that. So I sort of had an idea of like what it might be like. Maybe I prepared myself for something worse than it actually was. I don't know, because I remember messaging Izzy and going like, "What's the deal with this?" And he was just like, "It is what you make it. Just go for it. It's a good idea or whatever." So thing is with China, like, you get treated like a lot more like a pit bull than an actual human being if you're a fighter.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a good thing, because it's like it gets you really comfortable with just the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like anything can happen, so they don't really take into consideration like your comfort, you know, like in the changing room and stuff like that, and like where you're living or what you're doing in that kind of a way. So you just train and fight till you get delivered to full-time fighter. But then like you'll probably go to a show with like no coach, and you'll just be assigned like a random guy to just give you water who can't speak English, and that'll be your coach for the day. And you'll just go in there and have a fight, and like you just treat a fight like it's just a fight, you know, like by the end of it. Whereas like in the West, I had about 20 fights by the time I left for China, and I remember probably thinking for 80% of those fights, I remember like probably putting them all on like a pedestal, and maybe letting the occasion get to me a bit more than it should have at times. And you had no room to do that in China. Like you could not give that energy when you're there, because you only have you know, like you're your own team. So if you were to like have any negative thoughts and let them take over, you've got no one to pull you out of it. So you have to stay like positive, and you have to just think like, I remember when I first fought, like my first fight there, and I was in the same changing room as my opponent in this we were in a cubicle, like a tiny cubicle basically, together. And I remember I had no idea when we were even going to fight, because the fight list was in Chinese.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to copy what this guy is doing, and then I'll be ready. So I was on my own. Just there were some other fighters out the back, obviously, with me, but like they were all fighting as well, so getting ready. And so I wrapped my own hands and stuff. I watched him have his coach wrap his hands, so I wrapped my hand.
Yeah.
And then I saw him hitting some pads, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll just shadow box. But I was kind of always one step behind him, so I was watching him, watching what he'd do. And then he went out, and then I wasn't even ready. I didn't even have gloves on or anything. And the promoter was going like, come on, we've got to go, you're fighting now. And I remember just thinking like, I hadn't stretched or anything, and I remember thinking like, oh yeah, but I'm not stretching, I've not done this, and I've not done that. And I remember thinking like, well, if you think you're the best fighter in the world, then you shouldn't need to do like a few lunges, and then you should just be able to perform.
Yeah.
So I just went out and fought, you know, like it was just normal. And then it was fine. So like all of those things, like which you build up in your head, all those things that you think are important, like everyone has their own little mantra or whatever, like, oh, I need to do this, need to do their shadow boxing, need to hit pads.
Yeah.
You realise that that's just like a load of bollocks, really. And so then you start fighting, and you're like, oh, I can still head kick in the first round without doing like the splits beforehand or something. Like, so you just get used to just being ferried around, and like I had a few fights, like random fights, like in high altitude, but then only finding out that they were high altitude, like on the way in and stuff like that, and traveling like hours to get to shows, and just like weird stuff like that. But then you just have to like take a breath and go like, I can still do this. You know what I mean? Like nothing's going to throw me off my game.
And I bet you
taking fights on late notice, all that kind of stuff. So I think that sort of experience, like when you take that back to then imagine like once you've done that, you go and have your coach again, or go and have like a decently organised show, and you'd feel invincible, because you're like, wow, I've actually got someone speaking English giving me water and actually giving me legitimate advice, and not just like a random guy or no one at all sometimes. So yeah, it's like a hard place. It's like a real hard place, but you just like learn loads about yourself, and you like learn things that you probably consider to be like super important probably aren't that important.
Yeah, and I bet you like maybe at the time you're sort of thinking, oh, this is a bit weird or this is a bit bullshit, but after you've taken it all in and maybe you've had time a day or a couple of days or a week, whatever, for it to sink in, you look back and you go, that was actually a pretty cool and unique experience, because as you said, everyone gets nurtured and babied. You're used to the shows and someone driving you, and whereas you've got to do it all on your own.
Yeah, exactly. You basically just assume the role of the pit bull.
Yeah.
And it's all right to do that. Don't be a diva.
Hey, can I ask, like, how do they train in China, especially in kickboxing? Like so we know in Thailand it's the basic running, skipping, shadow, pads, bag work, clinching, sparring, all that sort of stuff. How do the Chinese go about their training over, especially for kickboxing?
At the absolute highest level, like there's a gym called Dadong Shang in Junzhou, and they bring in foreign coaches. So they'll bring in like a good Muay Thai coach, they'll bring in a good Western boxing coach, and then they'll have a Chinese coach that will kind of conduct everything. Like he'll say like, oh, you need to work on your kicks, you need to go to the Muay Thai guy, you need to work on your hands, you go to the boxing guy.
Yep.
So it'll be kind of like, it'll be like that, but then you also get like the Sander style fighters, and their sort of training is kind of that they do a lot of side kicking, they work on a completely different distance to what we do.
Yep.
So because they attack with like side kicks and lots of straight stuff down the middle like that. But yeah, I suppose like they train more like boxers.
Yep.
In some ways, a lot of hands, but they do like insane sparring. Like you have like fights in the gym and stuff. Like I've never seen a Chinese fighter have 16-ounce gloves. In training, they just all spar in like 8s and 10s and stuff and go hard.
Yeah.
And never wear gum shields either.
They don't.
No, they have no respect for like dental care whatsoever. Like, so yeah, I used to like have to ref them sometimes. I'd ref in the gym. Like the gym boss would be like, I want to see these two fight. So then you just basically had like two of your teammates, these two Chinese boys, probably about 16 or 18 years old, just like have it off in the gym, like as hard as they can. They'd have shin pads on, like 8-ounce gloves and no gum shield.
Yeah.
And I just have to ref it and stuff. People would be getting like broken noses and all sorts of stuff in the gym. And then like the strongest survive.
Yeah.
And then the strongest then go on to become like good fighters and stuff and get on the shows that are on TV and stuff like that. So that's how they like wean out the weak.
Are you a fan of that sort of training, or do you like the more preserve your body for the fights and only train and only spar and wear hard when you have to?
Yeah, I'm like science over like getting filled in the gym every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought like at the time, like I didn't like it or anything. I just at the time I suppose I just approached it with like a very cold-blooded attitude, and I was just like, this isn't happening, but I'm just going to get on with it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes you would have to have crazy spars, like they'd bring someone in for you, and they'd be like, yeah, we want you to spar this guy today, and it'd just be some fucking maniac. And yeah, you just have to sort of like regulate people. But it was all part of the whole experience was like, you just have to, at the drop of a hat, maybe fight somebody in the gym.
Yeah.
At the drop of a hat, maybe have a fight in a stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you seem to be settled in nicely at City Kickboxing, where you're training alongside Israel, who was once your rival, now your friend, Sammy the Shank Hill and Dan Hooker, just to name a couple, and a whole lot of other world-class fighters. What made you choose New Zealand, and in particular that gym, as your next training and stepping stone in the sport?
Well, like obviously they were getting actually met Izzy and Mike, one of his coaches, in China when I was there. I was like living in Xi'an, and like I was kind of, we had like a foreign fight team all living in Xi'an, and it was like there was a bunch of foreigners and a bunch of Chinese boys, and we were all trained together. And then like we all had the same manager, so like Israel had the same manager as me. And so he came over just to have one fight against. No, he had two fights actually. He fought a French guy, who I can't remember the name, and then he came and stayed with us for like 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, and then he was fighting Bogdan Stoiker. After that, so he came and stayed with us for that time with Mike, and we trained together. I learned like loads in that 3 weeks. I've not been coached in like such a long time. I've just kind of like been conducting the training myself or learning off my teammates or whatever at the time.
Yep.
So it was just straight away when Mike was there and like taking that pressure off and just sort of saying what we were doing, what the drills and stuff. I was like, wow, this is so good. And like, it was something that I'd like always wanted. And yeah, just like I really gelled with both of them. I just really liked the way they were doing things, like training and stuff. Learnt loads, and then I thought down the line, me and my girlfriend were travelling, and then it was kind of, we were running out of visas, and then I was like, New Zealand would be like such a good option. We can like live there, work there, and obviously like their CKB and stuff. So yeah, just chose that, and I just like the best decision that I've made. It's really like I needed that anyway. Like I've obviously got to a point now in fighting where like obviously it's better to have like a good team around you and stuff like that, and the team at CKB is just like all the best fighters in the world. And I also I work at Dan Hooker's gym as well at the Combat Academy, and that's really good. Dan essentially took me off the streets. I was in Thailand at the time. I remember just emailing him, and I was like, obviously he didn't know me, and I was like, would you mind me teaching a class or something? Like, and then he just took me up and really helped me out, basically. Like, gave me a part-time job, just teaching the classes down there, and then obviously I've got plenty of time now to train at CKB and learn as much as I can, and like upskill as much as I can.
Yeah, it's crazy how it's sort of like sometimes life, it comes 360 degrees circle, the way things happen and the way things just work out sometimes.
Yeah, you just network so much in fighting in such a small world. In the small world of fighting, you just network, and you always know someone that knows someone and stuff like that. And then, yeah, in the end, if you're traveling, especially if you're like kind of a nomadic fighter, you'll always find a place where you can settle, like, in that sense.
Yeah. So how long is your your visa for in New Zealand? Like, how long are you settled there for, like permanently now, or have you got to go and renew it again in another few years? Or
I've got a 2-year visa at the minute. I'm with my girlfriend. We're not 100% sure what we're going to do yet.
Yeah.
But we definitely need to make some like life decisions together. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. No worries. I'll leave it at that. And I believe your last fight was for Glory back in your hometown in Birmingham. What was it like fighting for a massive organisation like that, and in particular getting to fight in front of your friends and family in your hometown?
Yeah, it was really good. It was something that like it was a lot smaller than a lot of the shows that I've actually fought on in China.
Yep.
But that's the whole. The China was like where I learned how to sort of deal with fighting in front of lots of people and working with a big organisation and stuff like that. And it was kind of a way of, getting used to, I don't know, being interviewed maybe and walking out in front of like way more people and stuff and doing little media things that like you've never done before. So when I got to do the Glory thing, it didn't strike me as like a huge thing. I was like, it was just super comfortable for me. It was actually a lot smaller than some of the shows that I fought on in the 6 months prior to that. But it was really good to be on like the same shows like Rico Verhoeven and stuff like that, and Adam Nabiev. So it was cool to obviously think like, wow, I'm on this card now. But yeah, like I'd fully mentally prepared myself by putting myself in the China situation beforehand.
Mate, if I was on a card with like Rico Verhoeven or something, I'd probably turn into a little fanboy. He'd be like, "Oh my god, Rico, can I get a photo?" Like, so
He was more like that with me.
really?
No.
He's a big boy though. He's a very big boy, man. I wouldn't like to
Yeah,
get
he's real big.
mate. The Dutch, they're just naturally big, like massive people. Especially if you look at like him, Overeem, Spong, even that Stefan Struve. They just seem to. It's just in their genes and their DNA. I think they're just big boned people.
Yeah, they probably have quite a good doctor as well.
Yep. So, mate, your next fight is in Canberra on Josh and Kirsty Tonner's show, Chaos 2. You're fighting for the IWKBF World title. How did that fight come about?
Through Don Miller, whose gym I was training at in Melbourne, I told him that I was coming to New Zealand when I was in Thailand, and he was like, "Oh, I'll sort out. I'll let people know basically." And then Josh messaged me, and we got it sorted out.
Awesome. And so, do you know much about Charlie Bubb, your opponent?
Yeah, I remember hearing about him when I first got to Australia when he was an amateur, and I know that he was good then. And I've kind of half followed his career since then. Watched his fights with like Jake Lund, Toby Smith, like those big fights, and he fought a couple more times on that Eruption promotion. So yeah, I've followed Charlie for a while. He's a really good fighter, a really good up and coming young fighter.
And given that Charlie's predominantly a Muay Thai fighter and you're predominantly a kickboxer, do you see that as being an advantage for you?
I actually don't really. Like I think like the beauty of K1 is you can pit those styles against each other, and as long as you're both good, like it doesn't matter about I'm a K1 fighter, so that means I'll have more volume than you.
Yeah.
But really, he's like a strong Muay Thai fighter, and he throws a lot of volume himself and stuff like that. And sometimes volume doesn't win fights. Sometimes it's more like to do with timing and other things. So I don't see my K1 experience as like a huge advantage over him or anything like that, because he fights at a really high rate.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be an issue, and he's also like very skillful as well. And he just proved himself by fighting
Vedat
a quintessential K1 fighter in Vedat.
Yep.
So he dealt with that style, and yeah, like that was maybe his K1 debut. Yeah.
And he also
I don't see it as an advantage.
That's right, and he also switches his stance up quite a lot so he can fight either southpaw or orthodox. So there's another thing.
Yeah.
So come fight night, what can the Canberra fans expect from Mark Timms?
I don't know. Like all my fights seem to be different, but I think as long as I have a good dancing partner, which I definitely do in Charlie.
Yep.
Then I'll always have an exciting fight. So just expect like a good display of just skill and IQ.
Awesome, mate. And look, I know you're not looking past this fight, but is there anything else lined up after this that you can tell us about?
Actually, nothing. I'm still under contract with Glory. I've got like 6 months left on that, I think, and they owe me a fight or two.
Yep.
Maybe something will come of that. I don't know. I'm just focusing on the task at hand, and then hopefully that'll, like, people will know that I'm back in Oceania, and I'll get some more fights over here. I'll just see what happens.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. And if people want to contact you, follow you, message you, stay up to date with what's happening with your training and fight wise, how can people jump on board?
Probably better off on my Instagram, my Facebook. I just never update or do anything. But my Instagram is Mark with 2 A's _ Timms with 2 M's.
Yep.
But yeah, just go on that. I don't really, to be honest, like I'm the worst social media person, because I always think that if you've not got like loads going on, if I'm just getting my head down and training,
yeah,
then I don't need to show everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. And mate, last but not least, anyone that you wish to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, just like everyone at City Kickboxing, Eugene and Doug, and like all the coaches there, all the people there that have been like so welcoming. Like I'm just really looking forward to like representing the gym, and then all the people that have like supported me from home as well, like my old coaches, Adam Boyce, Gaz Richards, he's my strength conditioner, who kind of like helps me out online, which is really good, and Nathan Epps, my mate who travelled with me originally, who we still like talk all the time and stuff. And I know that when I go home, I've always got like a solid team around me to help me out and stuff. So yeah, those guys, they're all the best.
Awesome, mate. Well, thanks very much for your time. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to Josh Tonner for helping me set up this interview and chat with you, mate. And I've learned a few things about you, so it's really good. And I wish you the best of luck against my fellow Aussie Charlie Bubb. And I know it's going to be a great fight anyway. So win, lose or draw, it's going to be a hectic fight. And thank you very much for your time, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Fighters around the world ask questions and investigate the lives of great warriors, revered and notorious, infamous and legendary. That to me is glorious. Come kick it, still talk some shit with me. I'll ask so you can answer and explain to me the history. I had to throw a vicious knee. I got a passion for the art of 8 limbs. I'm just asking from the heart. So as I conclude this interview, thanks so much for sitting through. Love to all the fighters and the folks that listen. This for you.